Alright guys, my name is Goblin, and today I'm going to be giving you a classic World of Warcraft leveling guide for the warrior class. So for this guide we will have 6 sections. 1, we will go through all the essential information like what weapons should you use and what stance should you be in. Then we will go through the optimal talent builds, to which there are a few options. We will then go through the how to kill enemies fast section with the optimal DPS rotation and playstyle tricks like hamstring kiting. For number 4, we will go basically talk through gear and stats. 5thly, I will go through a weapon progression list. And lastly, I'll go through some tips to save money for your mount. It is worth noting guys that I've had this video basically overlooked and evaluated by a warrior expert by the name of Atticus. He has his own YouTube channel, he has some great content over there, so definitely go and check out his videos when you have the time. Just before I jump in guys, please do give me a quick follow on Twitch because I'll be streaming over there more often quite soon. So, the first question people ask when it comes to leveling a warrior is, what weapon should I use? A two-hander or should I dual wield? Right, a two-handed weapon is always going to be better. This is simply because the offhand weapon for a warrior has such a low chance to actually hit the target. We'll expand more on this in the talent section. Ideally what you want is a slow weapon, because this will increase the damage of basically all of your abilities, which are based on weapon damage rather than attack power. So, on what stance should you use? The stance you should use is battle stance. The main reason for this is because of overpowered procs. When an enemy dodges you, you have a chance to, well, you will get an overpower proc, and it just basically means more damage. However, at level 30, you may want to go berserker a little bit until you get to about level 40, because then things change entirely, and we'll go over that in the DPS section. It's also important to note that you're going to be in berserker stance for when you're doing AoE damage. Again, we'll talk about that in the DPS section, but now we have to go through the talents. So there's 2 builds that you can go for as a warrior. The first build is the most popular build. You basically go into Fury until level 40, and then you respec into Arms as soon as Mortal Strike becomes available. Or you can spec into Arms straight away, but it's only optimal when you're doing the hamstring method, which again we'll talk about pretty much straight after this. So let me go through the Fury build that most people go for. Basically max out Cruelty, you max out Booming Voice, and then from here you can either get Piercing Howl straight away, because it is quite useful talent. You can get Blood Craze for the extra survivability. Me personally, I like to play a bit more risky, and I actually go for flat out damage bonus of Battle Shout, but again you don't have to do that, you can get the survivability talents instead. Then I like to go for max out Enrage. Then I like to get Death Wish as soon as possible. I like to get Execute talent as soon as possible, and then I'll probably get a little bit of Blood Rage just to get me down the tree. I'm going to max out Flurry, and then pretty much at this point you're going to be going back to Class Trainer to get Arm Spec. So let me run through the Arm Spec. You imagine you've just respect, and this is the talent build that you're basically instantly going to get because you've just respect and you have 30 talent points to spend. What you're going to do is you're going to go into Improved Rend straight away. The only reason why we get Improved Rend is because of Deep Wounds, which is a massive damage bonus. You won't actually be using Rend that much. Then we get Deflection just to get us down the tree. You're going to go for Tactical Mastery and then Anger Management. The Stance Dancing will be used a little bit as well, which is why this is a damage boost. This is a huge damage boost because it helps you bank your rage and help you save rage. And then from here you want to get Deep Wounds, you want to get a little bit of improved Overpower, which is also really nice. Impale, two-handed weapon spec. And then at this point it really depends on what about weapons you have and what you know that your weapon progression is going to be, because you're going to choose basically based on what weapon you have. But you're not going to max out that talent straight away. I'd recommend getting two-handed weapon spec for the meanwhile, and I'd recommend getting 2 points in improved charge. Make sure you get 2 points of improved charge before you run out of talent points, because that is quite important, because at rank 3 charge and improved charge, basically on your first charge you will have enough rage to use a Mortal Strike, which is a massive damage boost in the early fight, basically increases your burst DPS. And then from here, again, it depends on what weapon you have, but make sure you get Mortal Strike pretty much as soon as it's available. Then you just start filling out the talents. From here, you obviously want to spec deeper into Fury, and basically pick the talents that we picked before, the damage boosting talents, until you get to level 60. Obviously here you can opt for the survivability talents and Piercing Howl if you prefer those talents. I just prefer playing a bit more risky and going for flat out damage bonus on my Battle Shout and just getting Enrage until I finish off. This on screen right now is pretty much the early stages of the hamstring kiting build, it is pretty much the same as the typical arms respec build that we used in what I just talked about, but what I will be doing is making a more detailed guide on the hamstring method very, very soon, so watch out for that. So let's finally go through the DPS section. First of all, I'd recommend getting a swing timer add-on, no matter what playstyle you're going to go for. So you have two choices. You can engage your enemies normally and use abilities to consume your rage intelligently, or you can do hamstring kiting where you strafe between your weapon swings, and this only works well with a slow two-handed weapon. It's good for increasing survivability, reducing downtime between mobs, but it also requires more focus and engagement from the player, and your wrists and fingers might also hurt for a while, so it is up to you. So let me go through the rotation, a standard rotation that is for level 1 to 40, Fury, two-handed. The rotation is pretty simple. I will talk about, hamstring kiting a little later, because that's where things get a little bit more difficult. First of all, check Battle Shout, charge in, then do a Heroic Strike while charging, so you get that Heroic Strike as your first melee hit, because that just basically gets you doing damage faster. Then you do a melee hit, then do a Heroic Strike, and then you may want to execute. However, it is actually better to bank your rage for the next mob, so you can fit it in that early Heroic Strike, right? So you can use execute if you have to stop for food or something, you have to wait for mobs to respawn, something like that, but it is better to bank your rage. And Blood Rage is also a little bit better used between pulls also, because it gives you an extra rage buff, and then it stops your rage from actually deplenishing between mob pulls. You might have to might need quite a distance to run before you can get onto your next mob. However, it does stop you from charging because it technically puts you into combat, so you'll have to make a cancel aura macro for it and cancel it before you charge back in. However, you can use it in the opener instead. You can use it while you're charging, so yeah, that's another option. So let me talk through the DPS rotation for level 40 plus in the arm spec. First of all, check Battle Shout, then charge, then let one melee swing happen. Doesn't matter if Mortal Strike is available, let the melee swing happen, because if you use Mortal Strike too early, you will clip your auto attack basically, and you will lose damage. And then from there, use overpower procs basically whenever they are available, and then use Heroic Strike above 55 rage, but only above 55 rage. So it is important to know that when you get charge rank 3, you will be able to use the Mortal Strike instantly after a charge, but just hold back on using it, resist the urge to do it, because you will be gimping your DPS, okay? And you will need 2 points in improved charge anyway for this to actually work, but it is good to just have enough rage for that Mortal Strike in the opener. You can also do a stance dance opener, right, which is a little bit more complicated. Basically, you charge in with Berserker stance, you pop Berserker rage, and then you quickly burn rage, then swap into arms and carry on with a normal rotation, so that is also another option. So let me run through very briefly hamstring kiting. Again, I will make a bigger video for this quite soon. First of all, check Battle Shout, then charge, then do a melee hit, then rend and hamstring, then you kite, then you wait for your melee swing to come back, which will probably only work, this method will probably only work if you have a very slow two-handed weapon anyway, of about 3 seconds. You also use overpower whenever it's available, and then when you go back into melee range after kiting to get your next melee hit on, you also reapply hamstring and rend, but wait for the melee hit to happen first, then use execute or Heroic Strike as a finisher. Okay? Over level 40 you probably want to be using Mortal Strike as a finisher instead. But like we've gone through, basically it's better to go with arm spec from level 10 with the hamstring method for improved rend and deep wounds, because it basically increases your dot damage as you're running away and kiting. The last thing to consider is your AoE rotation. You may be in a number of situations where you just have to take down multiple mobs at once, so it is important to have a good AoE rotation strategy. And when your cooldowns are available, it is actually quite easy to take more than one mob down. So first of all, you're going to check Battle Shout, then you go into Berserker stance, you're going to pop Berserker Rage, then you're going to probably charge in, then use Blood Rage, Sweeping Strikes, and then Sweeping Strikes with Whirlwind has a higher priority over Mortal Strike, because whenever you use Sweeping Strikes with Whirlwind, the damage is duplicated twice, so it's duplicated on each target, which means you do one Whirlwind and it'll do 4 hits, 4 special hits. It's quite mental. Then Mortal Strike with Sweeping Strikes available, and then do Cleave to dump your rage if you have any excess rage because you're taking so much damage. Obviously pop all your cooldowns as soon as you have them available. And yeah, and I've pretty much covered everything else in the script. So for our fourth section we're going to talk about gearing up. As far as I can see, you have three options. You can stack strength pretty high, which is what most people are going to do. You can shave off about 1 to 2 seconds of your mob killing time. Or, alternatively, you can stack spirit and stamina to reduce your downtime massively. Or you can stack agility and strength to stack up your crit chance. In my opinion, I would at least try and stack some spirit. I would give the build a little bit of a go. I think it is more optimal because the time spent between mobs is massively reduced. Less time eating, just less time wasting time. And as you stack spirit really high, it starts to inflate and become extremely useful. And it's, as far as private servers are concerned, it does scale extremely well on a warrior, so something to note. So for our fifth section we have the weapon progression section. I already have a video for this, you can go and check out that video instead. However, I will put a spreadsheet in the basically description of this video. If I haven't done it yet, you know, give me a slap on the wrist and remind me to do it. So yeah, and that'll just be a full out weapon progression list, we don't need to talk about it for too long. Last tip I have for you is basically how to make money so you can save up for your mount. When the last time I leveled a warrior, I was like about level 45 and still didn't have a mount, right, which is, it's pretty bad. So it is really important to learn how to save your money effectively so you can get your mount straight away at level 40. Otherwise you're going to be running around and you're going to severely damage your leveling speed. So first thing I'd recommend is get skinning, and then doesn't even matter if you're going to level skinning as a profession. And I'd recommend just vendoring the leather because it means for each mob kill you're getting an extra little bit of money. Second tip, make friends of a tailor and ask him to give you some bags. The more bags you have, the more basically slots you have, which is more trash loot you can put there, which in turn means more trash loot sold and more money made. Second tip, first aid. It means if you stack and level first aid, stack your bandages, it means you're buying less food, you won't need food as much. Number 3, do cooking, you know, to make food for yourself. If you have too much of it you can vendor it, but again you're trying to avoid buying food, because that's my fourth tip. Just stop buying food, you know, stack my spirit stat, ask a mage whenever you see one, cook any meat that you have available, and save as much as you can, you know, when you actually get food from world drops, and try to avoid using it as much as you can so you don't have to buy it. Ideally you don't want to be buying food at all. Fifth tip is to check quest item money reward. You will probably need basically an add-on for that, so always choose the most expensive item and then vendor it. Sixth tip is to quickly make a bank alt, right? If you've got a little bit of extra time, make a bank alt, and for whatever mats that you want to sell on the auction house, because you know they'll make a lot more money on the auction house, because they don't have a vendor price or something like that, you can just leave them in the mail to your bank alt. You don't even have to log your bank out, but you will have to within 30 days of you sending it, otherwise it'll get deleted, so do take note of that. Anyway, my voice has totally been destroyed because I am a rancid cold right now, but I was determined to make this video for you guys. Anyway, my name is Metagoblin, and until my next video, Christ, ciao!